All right, everybody. Welcome to the ECW Sports Podcast with Evan, Cade, and obviously taking place at Wilson High School, and of course ECW. I'm just kidding. You're very important. He's very important too. But today, guys, we're going to be talking about obviously it's Super Bowl week and NBA trade deadline week. Had some big moves happen over the past 24 hours, and LeBron breaking the scoring record about almost 48 hours ago to this day. So we're going to get into that. We're going to start it off, obviously, with the most recent news, which is the NBA trade deadline, where Kevin Durant was dealt. A couple days ago, Kyrie Irving was dealt. Russell Westbrook has finally been dealt from the Los Angeles Lakers, and it seems that there's a big shape-up in the Western Conference. So we're going to be talking about that, and let's get right into it. So with the first big deal we'll be talking about is the one that happened a few days ago, which was Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving was traded from the Brooklyn Nets after asking for a trade because he had heard from other teams that they would pay him over 4 years, $100 million for a new contract if he was traded. The Nets were not willing to give him that money. He wanted the money, so he asked them for a trade. And then he ended up in Dallas. Dallas traded Spencer Dinwiddie back to the Nets. If you remember, Spencer Dinwiddie used to be a part of the Nets before he would eventually move on, I think, to the Wizards were his next team he played for. But he is a former member of the Nets. The Nets seem to be in rebuild mode now that they've traded Kevin Durant. And they seem to be looking to trade Jay Crowder, who's a big role player on a couple of contending teams over the past few years. So there's a couple of contending teams that are going to want to get Jay Crowder. So the Nets are probably going to trade him. The Nets are in complete rebuild mode. As they ended up trading Kevin Durant now a couple hours ago. I think they'd be about 12 hours, yeah. So the Kyrie Irving trade directly led to that, which is why I brought it up first. With Kyrie and Luka, the new duo in Dallas, that's going to work out really well. Luka is a very dominant player. He's averaging over 30 a game, one of the most dominant offensive players we've seen yet. And he has a very illustrious career awaiting him as he continues to ball out and produce great numbers. Hopefully he gets a few rings, but this move right here should help him on that goal because it's a guy who's already got the statistics, the all-star selections. Hopefully he'll get some MVPs down the line. What he really wants to do is compete for championships. And the Mavericks wanted to make this move to prove to him that, hey, we're going to get the guys to help you do so. I think Markieff Morris was a part of the deal also. Then the Mavericks got him from the Nets, and Markieff was a part of that Lakers championship team 3 years ago. Yeah, it's been 3 years ago because it was in the bubble back into COVID. So, yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, so the Mavs look like they're going on a championship run, and now that the Nets have now traded Kevin Durant to the Phoenix Suns, it was in a 3-team deal that I think also involved the Timberwolves, if I'm correct. I think it involved the Timberwolves because I think Mike Conley got – basically Kevin Durant was involved in a 3-team deal, and the Suns basically traded about 5 first-round picks to get him. And now Kevin Durant's going to be a member of the Suns. This completely blows up the James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving experiment in Brooklyn. James Harden obviously was traded last year. Kyrie Irving just got traded, and Kevin Durant's now gone. One of the biggest disappointments, I think, Big Three-wise and team-wise in NBA history on what ifs, how many championships could they have won. But now they're all on the separate paths with James Harden. He's been balling out in Philly with Joel Embiid, who's an MVP candidate. Now Kyrie will be with an MVP candidate, and Luka could possibly be the favorite this year if the Mavericks end up doing really well. And now Kevin Durant, coming off of this injury, he should be out for a few more weeks through All-Star break. He'll be coming back to play with DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns. So this completely reshapes the West. The West was looking like the weaker conference compared to the East, as the East have the Bucks with Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. The 76ers, obviously, with Joel Embiid and James Harden and Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. And then, obviously, the best team in the East, the Boston Celtics, who are favorites right now, I think, to go back to the finals and hopefully revenge for them, since they lost last year against the Warriors. But the Boston Celtics were the favorite in the East with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and a bunch of other great role players. The East was looking like it, man. I mean, the Nets had the best record about 2 months ago for a good span. They didn't have the best record overall, but for about a 2-3 week span, they were winning more games than any team. Then Kevin Durant goes down. Then Kyrie Irving decides to want to be traded. It's kind of reshaped the entire NBA landscape, as now it seems that the West, with Kevin Durant now on the Suns, making them hopefully favorites to be one of the 1, 2, or 3 seed because, the games right now, there's not many separating. I think the Lakers are the 13th seed, and they're only 4 or 5 games away from being the 4th. So the West is completely reshaped, and the East will still be dominant, obviously, with Philly and Boston and the Bucks, but it's definitely not probably the more dominant conference. And, now the West is going to have a lot of competition, and that leads us into our next trade, which is Russell Westbrook being finally dealt from the Los Angeles Lakers. He'll be going to Utah, where he's expected to be bought out. The Timberwolves were also – this may be what I was thinking of, where the Timberwolves were involved, and Mike Conley, I think, is going to the Timberwolves, if I'm correct. And the Timberwolves are sending Jared Vanderbilt let me look this up officially. Hold up. It's a Beasley. I don't know if it's not Michael Beasley. Malik Beasley, yeah. Malik Beasley and D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell obviously started his career out in L.A. He was a top 3 draft pick a few years back, and then obviously the drama went down with the Nick Young situation. He was deemed too immature by Kobe in Kobe's final few years, so that's kind of why the Lakers pulled the plug after Kobe's retirement when they rebuilt the team and blew it up to try to get LeBron. So that brings D'Angelo back. D'Angelo's having a career year in Minnesota this year, kind of, rebuilding his aura and what people think of him, as he was kind of declining the past few years, and a lot of people in the league didn't really see him as a threat. So a lot of people are hoping that, he'll have a really good run in L.A. as he's been playing really well for Minnesota. Malik Beasley, great defender. He can shoot the ball really well. He'll hopefully help him out. Jared Vanderbilt, obviously, is a great post player, and he can be great for rotation minutes. They traded Thomas Bryant for, I think it was Devon Reed. They traded him away, and they're hoping to free up now minutes for Jared Vanderbilt. So I think they expect Jared Vanderbilt to also be a key part of their rotation, as they've traded away another center that had been playing pretty well for them in Thomas Bryant. And the Lakers have also just now traded, if I'm getting this correct, they've traded Patrick Beverley. And that, I think, will get them Mo Bamba. So Mo Bamba's another big center. He just got in a fight with Austin Rivers a few days ago. But basically the Lakers are completely reshaping their team. They obviously got Rui Hachimura a few weeks back. They finally traded those picks that people were saying that Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss needed to trade to show that they were willing to compete. So, I mean, as of right now, the West is completely reshaped. The Lakers are looking to try to make a run after LeBron passes Kareem the other day, kind of showing that he can still ball at a really high level, 80s. Obviously proved this year he can play, so they're getting Russell Westbrook out, reshaping the team. Hopefully they can make a run in the West, and they're going to have to make one because it's not going to be easy, because now the Suns are going to have Kevin Durant coming off an injury. Hopefully he's proved so far that off of injuries he still plays well. And you're going to have Dallas with Kyrie and Luka, and then obviously the Nuggets been balling out with Nikola Jokic, who somehow is still an MVP candidate, which would make him 3 straight years of winning it, which would be insane. So that's probably not going to happen, but it's still insane that he's even in the consideration. Shows how great he is. And the Grizzlies haven't really been playing well as of late, but they've got Ja. And once Curry comes back, obviously the Warriors will be there. So the West is really looking like it can be competitive. So these trades have completely reshaped the NBA, and it'll make it really interesting going into the final few stretches. Before I turn it over to Cade with the NFL, final big story I'm going to talk about. LeBron broke the scoring record, finally got to 38,388 points, which would pass Kareem, who was at 38,387 all-time points. LeBron had already had the all-time scoring record in playoffs and regular season combined, but he just needed to get the regular season.
That's what's crazy to me. For Kareem, though, Kareem has only hit, I think 1 3 in his entire life. All those points were 2.
Well, he also technically, though, his skyhook was very similar to kind of like Curry from behind the arc. Like, his skyhook was so dominant that he really didn't need to shoot threes because you couldn't guard it. A lot of guys, they have to diversify their game because they'll get doubled in the post. They need to go out on the perimeter. Like, he could shoot over 2 or 3 guys because of his wingspan. He was about 7'3". They say he was 7'2". He was definitely about 7'3", 7'4". And that wingspan just probably made it over 8 feet. So, I mean, he was impossible to guard, man. Had the most unstoppable shot in NBA history. So it's really impressive to see that fall. And I think after that happened, the Lakers finally said, hey, Bron's still playing at a high level. We got AD. We need to try to make a run, make hopefully something of these last few years that he's got and try to, compete for championships. And, it's really good to see. You never thought that record would be broken. It stood for 40 years. But once Bron was on it, man, we all were, waiting to see if it would happen, and it finally did, and it was a great night. But that'll close out our NBA news for now. We're going to go to Cade, who's going to talk about Super Bowl week, and it's a really big week as the Eagles are going to face off against the Chiefs. Cade, what you got on that?
I'm going to talk about Jalen Hurts first. If Jalen Hurts plays anything like he did in the NFC Championship, they're not winning.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. I know he had an injury or whatever, but if he plays like he did in the championship, he's not going to win.
Yeah.
And Brock Purdy, never mind.
You were thinking back to the championship games.
But you think
Mahomes?
Yeah, Mahomes would be healthy by then?
Mahomes played really well against.
He played well even with the injury. But all he did was he had the lineman to block for him, but I mean,
he made that really big key run using his legs at the end to kind of get them in field goal range and seal that win against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. This is going to be an interesting game. I think, are the Eagles favored? I think the Eagles may be favored to win this game.
Yeah. I mean, my opinion, I think if Jalen Hurts plays pretty good, I think they'll win it.
He's going to need that arm, though, man, because he's been underthrowing a lot of his guys lately, which, I mean, the 49ers were just out of all sorts once Brock Purdy got hurt, and then they threw in their fourth-string quarterback, Josh Johnson, who then also got hurt. So, I mean, that kind of game was over. So, I don't know if you can really rely on their performance against them as a reason to pick them. I think maybe their performance against the Giants, because the Giants had a pretty solid win against Minnesota. But I don't know.
Both championships were pretty bland, though, in, like, stats. I would say on stats, not like the game, but the stats.
I mean, the Eagles and Niners game was awful once it was clear that the Niners didn't have a quarterback and they were going to be running, laterals with, Debo.
What was his name? Yeah, Josh Johnson. He did not really throw that much.
He's a fourth-string quarterback. He's 36 years old, and he's been around multiple leagues.
He threw, like, only 13 passes out of, like, 3+ quarters.
Yeah.
And so he didn't do too well either. Doing just his normal, like what a normal NFL quarterback should do. He didn't get to.
Well, they've been using Purdy as a game manager anyway, so it wasn't like Purdy was playing great. So yeah, I mean, I think we have more to gain off of what the Chiefs have done because they played against Jacksonville. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence has been playing pretty well. Doug Marrone's doing a great job coaching them up. And then you have Mahomes, obviously, beating a really good Cincinnati team that, was trying to, go back-to-back and hopefully get some revenge for the loss against the Rams in the Super Bowl last year. I think, the Eagles have been really dominant all year. When Hurts played, I think they were 16-1. I mean, if you combine all their games. And I think the Eagles are the only team to only give up 7 points in both games. They only gave up 7 to the Giants. So the Eagles are dominant, but I don't know, like I said, if the 49ers game is really – can be used to show that because the Niners had so many issues. And I don't know how serious Daniel Jones and the Giants are either. So I'm taking the Chiefs. Not only am I a Chiefs fan, Lakers and Chiefs fan always, and I'm a Mahomes guy. But if I had to pick between which two teams I think are better, I think the Eagles may have the better team, but I don't think they have a better offense. And I think in a game like this, the Eagles have the better defense, but the Chiefs have the better offense, in my personal opinion. And I don't know if Jalen Hurts' arm is going to be good enough for him to be a reliable passer. It all comes down to Jalen Hurts' health.
They win.
Mahomes is going to be fine. He's only going to be healthier. Jalen Hurts is the key. I'm going to take the Chiefs 38-31. What are you taking?
I don't know. It's hard for me to predict scores, but I'm gonna say Eagles. I'm going to say they're going to win by a field goal, 31-28.
All right. Okay, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for our episode. I'd like to thank Cade for being on with me today.
ECW.
Obviously, I'd like to thank Matthew behind the camera doing a great job. And that's going to be the end of this podcast. Tune in with us next week, and we're going to talk about how the Super Bowl went. Hopefully, I'm correct and he's wrong. And, if he's wrong and I'm right, it's stupid. But anyways, if he's right and I'm wrong. But enjoyed it. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
Adios.